You have been on your knees about this for months. You tithe faithfully. You sow into the ministry. You quote the promise over your finances every single morning, like a soldier reciting orders. And still, nothing moves. The number in your account stays frozen. The raise never comes. The deal falls through at the last second, again. So you push harder. You fast longer. You give until it hurts. And somewhere in the silence, a thought you'd never say out loud starts to whisper, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe some people are just built for the overflow, and I'm built to scrape by. I need you to sit with what I'm about to tell you, because it's going to undo that thought completely. God has not been ignoring you. He answered you before you even finished asking. He opened a door, a specific 3-hour door, where He releases wisdom, direction, provision, and clarity into the earth. And every single day, without knowing it, you sleep straight through it. This isn't a hustle culture sermon dressed up in Bible verses. This is something buried in Scripture itself, running unbroken from the first chapters of Genesis to the last pages of the Gospels. Once it's in front of you, you will never hear your alarm the same way again. Because the Bible isn't only a book about the soul, it's a book about provision, and the chapter on provision opens at 3 in the morning. Let's start with something almost nobody in church has ever explained to you. In ancient Israel, the night was divided into 4 watches, 4 shifts, like guards trading posts around a fire, making sure the darkness never went unattended. First watch, 6 to 9 at night. Second watch, 9 to midnight. Third watch, midnight to 3. And the fourth watch, 3 in the morning until sunrise. Track this closely, because it changes everything. Nearly every major turning point in Scripture, every rescue, every miracle, every face-to-face encounter with God lands in that fourth watch. When Israel walked out of 400 years of bondage, it didn't happen at noon under a triumphant sun. Exodus 24 tells us, God looked down through the pillar of fire in the morning watch and threw Pharaoh's army into chaos. By daylight, a nation that had been enslaved for generations was free. It's the same watch when Jesus walked out onto the sea. Matthew 14. His disciples had been fighting a storm for hours, arms burning, boat taking on water, and in the fourth watch, not the first, not the second, Jesus came walking across the very thing trying to kill them. And here's the detail that should stop you cold. Mark chapter 1. Jesus, the one who spoke galaxies into existence, who could have called down legions of angels for anything He needed, got up long before dawn, while it was still dark, and went alone to pray. Think about that. He had nothing to ask for, and He still chose that hour. Why? Because that window isn't primarily about discipline. It's about alignment. Before the world wakes up and starts pulling at you, before the messages, the demands, the noise, there's a frequency that comes through clean. Jesus wasn't teaching a productivity hack. He was showing you where heaven's signal is strongest. He's not the only one who knew it. When God gave Abraham the hardest assignment of his life, Genesis 22, take your son to the mountain, Abraham didn't stall. He didn't wait to feel ready. Scripture says he rose early and set out. When God told Moses to walk into Pharaoh's throne room and demand freedom for an entire nation, Exodus 8 says Moses rose early. When God was ready to hand him the covenant itself, Exodus 24, Moses rose early and built the altar. Joshua, the day he stepped into the Jordan to cross into the promised land, rose early. The day the walls of Jericho collapsed, rose early. Do you see the thread? Every covenant, every collapse of impossible walls, every assignment that changed the course of history, it all started before the sun did. And this is exactly where sincere, praying, faithful people miss it completely. You want Abraham's breakthrough, but you won't keep Abraham's hours. You want the walls to fall like they did for Joshua, but you won't rise the way Joshua rose. Here's a detail almost nobody preaches on. Exodus 16. When God rained manna down to feed Israel in the wilderness, they had to gather it morning by morning, because the moment the sun climbed high and the heat set in, it melted, vanished. It wasn't sitting there waiting all day for whenever you got around to it. It came with an expiration stamped into the very air. Sleep in, and the ground was already bare by the time you showed up. Now, I'm not telling you God can't move at 2 in the afternoon. He's God. He does what he wants. But I am telling you to stop ignoring the pattern. From Genesis to the Gospels, provision, direction, and rescue keep landing in the same window. That's not an accident of ancient scheduling. That's design. Which brings us to Job 38 verse 12, where God turns and asks Job a question that's really aimed straight at you. Have you ever commanded the morning since your days began? He's not asking if you woke up. He's asking if you took charge of it. There's a difference between opening your eyes and opening your mouth to decide what kind of day this is going to be. Most people wake up and let the day happen to them. Inbox, traffic, pressure. Before 9 a.m. they're already in defense mode, reacting instead of leading. But what if, before any of that touched you, you'd already met with God, already received direction, already spoken over your income, your work, your family? That's not religious ritual. That's strategy. And the Bible has been teaching it since before strategy had a name. So if you're asking, fine, I believe the pattern. What do I actually do at 3 in the morning? Here it is, 3 phases, 3 hours, each one building on the last. None of them optional to skip ahead on. You don't get to phase 3 without phase 1. The same way God didn't build life before he built light. Order matters. Phase 1 runs from 3 to 4. Call it the tuning hour. This is not the hour to start listing what you need. That's the trap most people fall straight into. Eyes open, and immediately, Lord, I need this. Fix that. Open this door. But Psalm 100 lays out the actual entry protocol. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise, not with requests. Praise comes first. Before the list, you acknowledge who you're even talking to. So the first 15 minutes, you give thanks. Not for what's coming, for what's already happened. Thank him you woke up at all. Thank him for the roof, the meal you had yesterday, the breath in your chest right now. Start there, because gratitude does something a request never can. It reminds your spirit you're not starting from empty. You're building on ground that's already solid. From there, the next 30 minutes you open scripture, but not the way you skim a paragraph and move on. Joshua 1 verse 8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, so that you may observe to do all that's written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Read that again. God didn't tell Joshua to skim it. He told him to meditate, to sit with one verse and chew on it until it opens. Pick a single passage. Ask it a direct question. What strategy is hidden in this line for what I'm facing financially today? What's the instruction I've read past 100 times without ever seeing it? And notice what was promised on the other side of that meditation. Not spiritual success in the abstract. Prosperity. Tangible, visible, practical success, tied directly to a morning spent chewing on the word. The last 15 minutes of this phase are the ones almost everyone skips, and they might matter more than the other 45 combined. You stop talking. You stop reading. You sit in total silence with a notebook open in front of you. Job 33 says, God speaks in one way, and in two, though a man may not notice it, in a dream, in a vision in the night. When deep sleep falls on men, then he opens their ears and seals their instruction. God speaks in stillness. But most people are too busy talking to ever catch it. You've spent 45 minutes praising and meditating. Now give him the floor. And whatever drops into your mind, a business idea, a name, a direction, a warning to stay away from something, write it down immediately. Habakkuk 2. Write the vision. Make it plain, so the one who reads it can run with it. God doesn't just want you to hear it. He wants it recorded. Because some of the sharpest financial insight you'll ever receive won't come from a class or a video. It'll come from a silent room at 3:45, with your spirit tuned in and a pen already in your hand. That's phase 1. Enter with thanks. Meditate with a real question. Listen with the notebook open. By 4 o'clock, your spirit is calibrated. Now it's time to move. Phase 2 runs from 4 to 5, the command hour. This is where most people's mornings should start, but never do. This is where you stop asking God to bless the day and start speaking over the day like someone who already knows how the story ends. That's not arrogance. That's Job 22. You will declare a thing, and it will be established for you, and light will shine on your ways. God gave you a mouth for a reason, and in the spiritual sense, words aren't just sound, they're construction material. Proverbs 18, death and life are in the power of the tongue. So from 4 to 4:20, you speak, out loud, not silently in your head. You declare over your day, your income, your work, your household. My hands are blessed. What I touch prospers. I'm being led toward the right opportunities, and they're being led toward me. The right people find me. No setback formed against my income or my purpose will be the one that wins. You're not begging, you're agreeing, lining your mouth up with what's already been written about you, that you're the head and not the tail, that heaven's storehouse is already open toward you. Then from 4:20 to 4:50, you shift from declaration into strategy. And this is where the Bible starts sounding like a business manual. Proverbs 21, the plans of the diligent lead to abundance, but the hasty come only to poverty. Notice, it doesn't say the prayers of the diligent. It says the plans. God honors planning. Even Jesus said it plainly. Luke 14, which of you, wanting to build a tower, doesn't first sit down and count the cost? Jesus told you to budget. Jesus told you to calculate before you build. So in this window, you pick your top 3. Not 10, not 20. 3 actions. The ones that actually move your income, your career, your calling forward today. Not busy work. Not your inbox. The 3 that matter. And you hand them to God. Proverbs 16. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. You've prayed, you've declared, now you've planned. That's not just faith. That's faith wearing a schedule. The final 10 minutes of this phase, 4:50 to 5, you pray for someone who isn't you. This isn't a nice add-on. It's strategic. Jeremiah 29. Seek the peace of the place I've sent you, and pray for it, because in its peace you will find your own. Most people only pray for themselves, but Scripture ties your blessing directly to your intercession for others. Pray for your employer, your co-workers, your clients, the place that pays you. When you pray for their success, something in yours unlocks too. That's phase 2. Declare, plan, intercede. By 5, your spirit is aligned, your mouth has spoken, your day is mapped. You've done more before sunrise than most people manage in a week. Phase 3 runs from 5 to 6, the sharpening hour. This is what separates the believer who's praying for an opportunity from the believer who's actually ready to hold it when it lands. Proverbs 22. Do you see a man skilled in his craft? He will stand before kings, not before nobodies. That's a promise, but it has a condition attached. Skilled. Not hopeful, not prayerful, skilled. God doesn't promote people who only believe. He promotes people who prepared while they believed. Faith with no skill underneath it is a prayer with no legs. So from 5 to 5:30, you invest in yourself. Read a chapter on your craft, your finances, your leadership. Take the course. Practice the exact skill the world is willing to pay you for. Ecclesiastes 10. If the axe is dull and you don't sharpen it, you'll need more strength. But wisdom brings success. A dull blade still cuts eventually. It just costs you 3 times the effort for half the result. That's what showing up to work without ever investing in yourself looks like. 30 minutes a day, sharpening. In a month, you'll know things your coworkers don't. In 6, you'll spot doors they can't even see are there. In a year, You'll be standing in the room you used to only pray about from outside the glass. The final half hour, 5:30 to 6, you prepare your body. Move it, shower, dress like the version of you God is lifting you toward. Isaiah 60, arise, shine, your light has come. That's not only spiritual language, it's physical instruction too. Get up, stand straight, present yourself with excellence. Daniel, living under a foreign empire, was found 10 times sharper than everyone around him and carried favor with kings, not by accident. He prepared himself spiritually, mentally, and physically before anyone else's alarm even went off. 1 Corinthians 6, your body is a temple. You wouldn't let a temple sit in ruins. Don't let yours either. That's the full architecture. Phase 1, align your spirit through thanks, meditation, and silence. Phase 2, command your day through declaration, strategy, and intercession. Phase 3, sharpen your edge through study and physical readiness. By 6 a.m., while most of the world is still reaching for their phone with one eye open, you've already worshipped, already received instruction, already spoken your day into place, already planned, already interceded, already grown sharper, already prepared your body, and you haven't even walked out the door yet. You're already ahead. But before you set that alarm, I need to say something, because everything I just gave you is powerful, and powerful things become a weight instead of a gift the moment you misread them. I don't want you setting your alarm for 3 tomorrow, white-knuckling it for 4 days, running yourself into the ground, and then walking around convinced you failed God. That is not what this is. And I know that voice, the one that hears something like this and immediately turns it into a whip. If I miss a morning, I've disappointed him. If I can't get through all 3 phases, I'm not serious about my faith. That voice is not God's voice. That's religion talking. Because look at what God did after 6 days of building the entire universe. After speaking light into existence, dividing the oceans, shaping every living creature, forming you out of dust, and breathing life into your chest. Genesis 2, he rested. The one being in existence who never tires, never sleeps, never slumbers, still stopped, not from exhaustion, to establish something. Rest was never a consequence of weakness. It was built into creation before sin ever showed up. That means choosing rest isn't laziness, it's wisdom. Jesus lived this out too. Mark 6, after his disciples had been preaching, healing, and serving until they were running on fumes, Jesus didn't say, push harder. He said, come away by yourselves and rest a while. He pulled his own team out of the middle of active ministry and told them to stop, because he knew a burned-out servant isn't a faithful one, just an exhausted one. And Psalm 127 says it plainly, it's useless to rise early and stay up late, eating the bread of anxious labor, for he gives sleep to those he loves. Sleep isn't something you steal from God. It's something he hands you. And refusing a gift because you've convinced yourself that grinding harder makes you holier, that's not devotion. That's pride wearing a prayer shawl. So hear this clearly. What I've handed you isn't a daily sentence. It's a rhythm. Some mornings you rise at 3, some at 5, and some mornings God simply wants you to sleep, because he's moving on things that don't require you awake for them at all. Ecclesiastes 3. There is a time for everything under heaven. A time to rise, a time to rest, a time to push, a time to be still and know that he is God. The wisdom was never in doing this every single day until you collapse. The wisdom is in learning the rhythm, the way a farmer knows exactly when to plant and exactly when to let the ground recover. You are the ground too. God isn't trying to drain you. He's developing you, and development requires recovery. So start exactly where you're at. If 3 feels impossible, start at 5. If 3 hours feels like too much, start with 1. If all you can give tomorrow is 20 minutes before your normal alarm, give him the 20 minutes. He's not counting hours. He's watching your heart. And a heart that says, I'm going to try, moves him further than a perfect schedule ever could. This was never about perfection. It was always about priority. The real question isn't can you wake up at 3? It's this: am I worth your first hour, or do I only get whatever's left of you? And I know exactly how this goes. Right now your spirit's on fire. Something shifted while you were listening, and you're telling yourself, tomorrow, I'm doing this. Then the alarm goes off, you're groggy, you can't remember the phases, you're not sure which verse to open to, and by the third day, the fire's cooled, and the whole thing quietly disappears. I've watched it happen too many times to count, so I built something to close that gap. It's a 90-day companion for exactly this. Walking out everything we just covered, day by day, mapped out so you're never guessing what to meditate on, what to declare, how to shape your top 3, or how to track what God's speaking into the silence. It takes this entire blueprint and puts it directly in your hands so you're not left to piece it together alone. It costs nothing, the same way the manna cost nothing, because the word was never meant to be sold, only shared. You'll find it linked below and pinned in the comments. Get it now, before the fire from this video cools and tomorrow quietly becomes the excuse it's always been. Proverbs 8 says it plainly, "I love those who love me, and those who seek me early shall find me." That's not a motivational line. That's a promise with his name on it. So tomorrow, when your eyes open before the sun, and I believe they will, don't roll over. Don't reach for the phone. Don't tell yourself 5 more minutes. Do exactly what young Samuel did in the middle of the night when God called his name. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And then get up. Open the notebook. Open the word. Step into the window that's been standing open for you the entire time. The one you've been sleeping straight through. The breakthrough was never missing. You were just asleep when it arrived. If something in you shifted while you were watching this, go down to the comments and write 5 words. I'm waking up for it. That's your line in the sand. You're telling God, telling yourself, and telling every excuse you've ever made that the season of sleeping through your own blessing is finished. Grab the 90-day companion linked below. And if you're not subscribed yet, understand what we're building here. We're not doing surface-level faith. We're digging into the parts of Scripture most people skim past, uncovering the strategies God hid in plain sight for anyone willing to actually look. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and I'll meet you in the next one. Seek Him early, and you will find Him.